I was standing in the parking garage when my phone buzzed and my world ended. The concrete under my shoes was still warm from the day, the smell of gasoline heavy in the air, and I remember thinking, I should hurry because the hospital visiting hours ended in 12 minutes. Then the message appeared. Your wife and children were removed from your emergency contact. Do not attempt to interfere with corporate or personal boundaries again. It was from her, my CEO, the woman who had whispered in my ear an hour earlier. Take me home or you're fired. My hands started shaking so hard I dropped my keys. I had already lost my family by the time I reached the car. What I never knew, what would take me years to understand, was that when she said those words, she wasn't threatening me. She was begging. I didn't know that yet. All I knew was that my chest hurt in a way I had never felt before, and something inside me was collapsing faster than I could stop it. My name is Daniel Mercer. I used to believe that if you worked hard enough, stayed loyal, protected your family, and kept your dignity, life would eventually meet you halfway. That belief died that night in the garage. I wanted a quiet life. I wanted my children to be proud of me. I wanted to grow old with my wife, Anna, in the same small house we had struggled for 10 years to buy. What I was afraid of losing was everything I had built. Within 60 seconds of that text message, I was already losing it. There's something I've never told anyone. Not Anna, not my parents, not even the man I used to pray to when things felt impossible. When I was a child, my father disappeared for 3 months, no note. No call, nothing. When he came back, my mother didn't ask where he'd been. She just made dinner and pretended nothing had happened. I grew up terrified of becoming the kind of man who leaves. That fear follows most adults I know. The fear that one day you'll wake up and realize you're the villain in your own family story. I carried that fear into every decision I ever made, including the one that destroyed everything. 3 weeks before the garage, my CEO, Eleanor Wright, had called me into her office after hours. Everyone else had already gone home. The city outside the glass wall was glowing orange and blue, and she was standing by the window with her arms folded like she was holding herself together. She didn't look like the woman who ran a billion-dollar corporation. She looked tired. Daniel, she said quietly, how long have you been married? 13 years, I answered. She nodded like she was counting something in her head. Then she asked, do you love her? That question should have been the moment I walked out. Instead, I told the truth. She closed her eyes for a second. When she opened them, something in her was already breaking. That was the first crack. I didn't know it yet, but my life had already stepped off a cliff. Over the next 2 weeks, the requests started coming. Nothing illegal. Nothing on paper. Small things. Late meetings. Personal errands. Private conversations that felt too heavy for work and too dangerous for anything else. I told myself I was protecting my job. I told myself it was temporary. I told myself my family would never know. Every adult lies to themselves this way at least once. The night everything exploded, she called me at 9:17 p.m. Her voice was barely steady. Take me home or you're fired. I hesitated. She whispered, please. So I did. And that's how my family died. Because while I was driving her through the dark, my wife was at the hospital with our son, alone, learning that the surgery we'd been waiting for was being delayed due to insurance complications. Insurance complications caused by a corporate decision I had unknowingly signed off on that morning. My signature, my company, my fault. By the time I reached home that night, Anna's eyes were empty. The kids were asleep. My phone was vibrating with messages I was too afraid to read. I sat at the kitchen table and realized I no longer recognized the man in my own life. This is the part most people don't admit. When your life starts collapsing, you don't fight. You freeze. That's where I stayed for months. And this is only the beginning. I didn't go home the next morning. I sat in my car in the hospital parking lot with my forehead on the steering wheel, listening to the engine tick as it cooled, wondering when exactly I had become a man who avoided his own family. Inside, Anna was holding our son's hand while doctors spoke in words I should have been there to hear. I told myself I would walk in after just one more minute. That minute became an hour. My phone buzzed. Eleanor. Come to my office. No greeting, no explanation. Just command. I went. Her office smelled like coffee and something burned. The city was gray behind her windows. She was sitting at her desk with her hands folded, her eyes red like she hadn't slept. I need you to take responsibility for the restructuring memo, she said. My throat tightened. That decision wasn't mine. She didn't look up. Your signature is on it. I signed what you told me to sign. She finally met my eyes. There was no anger there, just exhaustion and something almost like fear. If this comes out, she said quietly, everything collapses. I thought about Anna, about my son in a hospital bed, about the mortgage payment due in 12 days, about the way my father had disappeared. And I nodded. That's the moment my identity cracked. The memo leaked 3 days later. Stock dropped. Press called. Employees panicked. Eleanor held a public briefing and said, this was a failure in middle management. She didn't say my name. She didn't have to. By noon, HR was in my office. By evening, my access was revoked. By midnight, the internet had already decided who I was. The emails started coming. Threats, insults, messages asking how a father could destroy so many lives. I read everyone. That night, Anna finally asked the question she had been holding in her chest. Did you do this? There are moments in life where the truth will cost you everything, and the lie will cost you more. I said yes. She didn't cry. She just nodded. 2 days later, she took the kids to her sister's. That was loss number 1, family. Loss number 2, reputation. Loss number 3 was quieter, myself. By the 4th week of unemployment, I was selling my watch to pay for groceries. By the 6th, the bank called. By the 8th, I was sleeping on my brother's couch and pretending I still had a future. Somewhere in that blur, I accepted something I had never allowed myself to say. The man I used to be was dead. I mourned him alone, late at night, staring at the ceiling, thinking about how easy it is to erase a life. One evening, Eleanor called. Her voice was shaking. I made a mistake, she said. They're coming for me now. That was the first time I understood. She hadn't used me. She had been running. Her husband was on the board. The restructuring would have exposed years of private financial manipulation. If the truth surfaced, she would lose everything, and so would he. I was the shield, and I had accepted it. Here's the contradiction no one admits. I hated her, and I still wanted her to survive, because if she fell, it would mean I had destroyed my family for nothing. That night I made a choice that cost me my last shred of security. I refused to sign the final statement she sent me. I told her, I'm done lying. There was silence on the line. Then she whispered, they'll ruin you. I already am. She hung up. 2 days later, I received the legal notice. They were suing me. Anna called me that night. They're asking me questions, she said. I can't protect you anymore. I closed my eyes. And for the first time since the garage, I wanted to disappear. By the time the court date arrived, I no longer recognized my own name when I heard it spoken. It sounded like someone else's life. I had lost the apartment, the job, the reputation, the future I had been building since I was 22. My brother's couch was gone. My parents' patience had thinned. Anna only texted about the kids. I carried my world in one backpack. There is a special kind of loneliness that comes from being innocent and ruined at the same time. The night before the hearing, Eleanor called again. Her voice was low, hollow. They're forcing me to testify against you, she said. I laughed. Not because it was funny, because I had nothing left inside that knew how to cry. You already did, I told her. Silence. Then very quietly she said, Daniel, take me home or you're fired. The same words, only now I finally heard what was inside them. Fear. Panic. The sound of a person whose life was already collapsing. For a moment, a dangerous moment, I almost crossed my own moral line. I almost agreed to lie again just to stop the bleeding, just to protect what little I had left of my children's future. But I didn't. Because of one quiet reason I never told anyone. My son once asked me, Dad, are you a good man? And I had said yes. I couldn't undo that answer. At the hearing, when they asked me to confirm the memo was my independent decision, I paused. My chest burned. The room felt too small. My hands were numb. And I said no. Everything stopped. The documents came out. The email trails. The financial transfers. Her husband's name. The board's silence. The years of manipulation. The truth moved through the room like a storm. Eleanor didn't look at me. She didn't have to. By evening, the headlines were different. She resigned before midnight. Her husband was removed from the board. The lawsuit against me collapsed. My name was cleared. Justice arrived without violence, without shouting, without triumph, just the quiet sound of things finally breaking the right way. A week later, Anna met me at the park. The kids ran to me like nothing had ever happened. She didn't. We sat on the bench, the wind cold between us. "You were right," she said. "I'm sorry." I nodded, but something in me understood what she didn't yet. Not everything comes back. We didn't fix the marriage. We learned how to stand beside each other as parents. That was the peace we earned. Months later, I passed the same parking garage. The concrete was cool now. The air smelled like rain. I stood where I had dropped my keys that night. Same place, different man. I still carry the scar. The knowledge that a life can be erased by a single decision, and dignity is the only thing you get to keep. But I kept it, and that is how I finally came home.